The city was a whirlwind of activity, a concrete jungle teeming with life, millions of souls, each chasing dreams. Some stories remained untold. Lennox was one such soul, swallowed by the city's indifference. He found solace in the anonymity of the crowd. Each day bled into the next, but even in despair, hope can ignite, a single spark capable of illuminating the darkest corners. Lennox was a man etched with the passage of time. His face, a canvas of wrinkles and lines, bore witness to a life lived on the fringes. His eyes, though clouded with hardship, still held a spark of humanity, a flicker of resilience that refused to be extinguished.
I carry myself with quiet dignity, even if my shoulders slump under the weight of my circumstances.
His clothes, worn and faded, spoke of countless nights spent under the open sky, exposed to the elements and the city's cold indifference. He was invisible to most, a shadow blending seamlessly into the urban tapestry. Passers-by averted their gaze, their steps quickening as they hurried past. He was a stark reminder of life's inequities, an uncomfortable truth they preferred to ignore. But beneath the rough exterior, Lennox harbored a heart that still beat with empathy and compassion. He may have been forgotten by society, but he had not forgotten what it meant to be human. He clung to the remnants of his own humanity, a beacon of hope in the face of adversity. The city's indifference was a palpable force, a suffocating blanket that threatened to smother Lennox's spirit. It was in the averted gazes, the hurried footsteps, the unspoken judgments that he felt the full weight of his isolation.
I've grown accustomed to the sting of invisibility, the feeling of being unseen, unheard, unimportant.
It was a constant reminder of his place in the social hierarchy, a stark contrast to the opulence and extravagance that surrounded him. Every day was a struggle to hold on to his dignity, to cling to the belief that his life had value. The city, with its relentless pace and unyielding demands, seemed determined to strip him of his humanity, to reduce him to nothing more than a statistic. But Lennox refused to be defined by his circumstances. He carried within him a strength born of adversity, a resilience forged in the crucible of hardship. He knew that his worth was not determined by the opinions of others, but by the content of his own character. Despite the challenges he faced, Lennox had not given up hope. He clung to the belief that even in the depths of despair, redemption was possible. He had seen glimpses of kindness amidst the indifference, fleeting moments of human connection that reminded him that he was not alone.
There is a certain beauty in resilience, a testament to the indomitable spirit that resides within us.
He was a survivor, a testament to the power of hope to sustain us even in the face of overwhelming adversity. And so, Lennox continued to navigate the labyrinthine streets of the city, his heart open to the possibility of change. He knew that his story was far from over, that fate had a way of intervening in the most unexpected ways. And on one fateful day by the banks of the river, his life would take a dramatic turn, a turn that would reveal the true depths of his character and the transformative power of redemption. The afternoon sun beat down on the city, reflecting off the murky waters of the river. Lennox found himself under the looming shadow of the old bridge. The bridge hummed with the constant thrum of traffic. He closed his eyes, the gentle breeze a welcome respite. The sounds of the city faded into a dull roar. For a moment he felt a sense of peace. He leaned back against the cool stone of the bridge support. Little did he know this sanctuary was about to become the stage for an act of extraordinary courage. A sudden splash, a sharp cry shattered the tranquility. Lennox's eyes snapped open, his senses on high alert. Across the river near the opposite bank, a small figure was struggling in the water. A young girl, her blonde hair a stark contrast to the murky depths, was being swept downstream by the current. Panic clawed at his throat.
Oh no.
He scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding against his ribs. The girl's head disappeared beneath the surface, then reappeared, her arms flailing desperately. Her cries for help, faint and choked with fear, reached his ears above the roar of the city. Lennox scanned the riverbank, searching for signs of anyone else who might have witnessed the unfolding tragedy. But he was alone. The bridge above, a symbol of connection, seemed to mock him with its indifference. The girl's head disappeared again, staying under longer this time. A cold dread gripped Lennox's chest. He knew he had to act, and act fast. Every second counted. The world seemed to shrink, the cacophony of the city fading to a distant hum. All that remained was the sight of the struggling girl, her life hanging precariously in the balance. Time seemed to slow, each tick of the clock an agonizing eternity. Fear warred with instinct within him. He couldn't swim. He knew the river's reputation, treacherous, unforgiving. But the girl's desperate cries for help pierced through his fear, igniting a spark of courage he didn't know he possessed. He looked down at his worn shoes, his calloused hands. He was a man forgotten, deemed invisible by the world. But in this moment, he was the only one who could make a difference. A surge of adrenaline coursed through his veins, pushing aside doubt and fear. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the plunge. This was his chance, perhaps his only chance, to prove that even a forgotten soul could be capable of extraordinary acts.
Here goes nothing.
Without a moment's hesitation, Lennox launched himself towards the river. He didn't think, didn't calculate the risks. He simply acted, propelled by a force greater than himself.
The cold water slammed into me, a shock to my system.
He surfaced, gasping for air, the current pulling at him with surprising force. He fought against it, his eyes fixed on the spot where the girl had last been seen. He knew he only had one shot at this. Time seemed to warp around him as he swam, each stroke a testament to his will.
I ignored the burning in my lungs, the icy grip of the river. My only focus was reaching the girl, pulling her from the clutches of the unforgiving current.
His heart pounded in his ears, a drumbeat urging him onward. He wouldn't let her drown, wouldn't let her become another forgotten soul swallowed by the city's indifference. He would reach her. He had to. His own survival had become inconsequential in the face of this desperate struggle for life. The murky depths swallowed him whole. Gone was the roar of the city, the oppressive heat of the sun. An eerie silence descended, broken only by the gurgling of the current and the frantic thump of his own heart. The water, dark and cold, pressed against him from all sides, a suffocating embrace.
I kicked my legs, my movements clumsy and uncoordinated. The current, deceptively strong, tugged at me, threatening to sweep me further downstream.
Disorientation set in. The riverbed a swirling blur beneath him. He groped blindly, his hands searching for any sign of the girl. Panic gnawed at the edges of his mind, but he pushed it back, clinging to a sliver of hope. He had to find her. He wouldn't let her slip away. Time lost all meaning. How long had he been submerged? Seconds, minutes, an eternity?
My lungs burned with the need for air, my vision beginning to fade at the edges. Still, I pressed on, driven by a primal instinct to save a life.
His hand brushed against something soft. Fabric? Hair? Hope surged through him, a lifeline in the suffocating darkness. He clawed at the sensation, his fingers closing around a small arm. He pulled, his muscles screaming with exertion. The current fought him every inch of the way, determined to keep its hold on its tiny victim. But Lennox refused to relinquish his grip. He had come too far, risked too much to fail now.
I kicked with renewed vigor, my body a battering ram against the relentless current. Slowly, painstakingly, I felt myself rising, the weight of the girl pulling me upward.
A glimmer of light pierced the darkness above, a beacon of hope in the watery abyss. His lungs screamed for air, his vision blurring, but he clung to the girl with unwavering determination. They would surface together or not at all. His own survival paled in comparison to the precious life he held in his arms. With a final desperate surge, they broke the surface. Gasping for breath, Lennox fought against the current, pulling the girl towards the safety of the riverbank. His limbs felt like lead, his body on the verge of collapse, but he wouldn't allow himself to succumb to exhaustion. Not yet.
Come on, just a little further.
He struggled to keep the girl's head above water, his own chest heaving as he gulped in lungfuls of precious air. Her eyes were closed, her face pale and lifeless against the murky water. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through his exhaustion. Was he too late? He refused to believe it. He had fought too hard, risked everything to lose her now.
Stay with me, please.
He had to get her to safety, had to coax her back to consciousness. Hope, though flickering precariously, refused to be extinguished. With a surge of adrenaline, he kicked towards the shore, dragging the unconscious girl behind him. The riverbank, once a place of solace, now represented salvation, a sanctuary from the watery grave that had almost claimed them both. His trembling limbs scraped against the rough concrete of the riverbank. He hauled himself and the girl onto solid ground, collapsing onto the gritty surface, their bodies a tangle of limbs and soaked clothing. He lay there for a moment, catching his breath, the world spinning around him. The sun beat down on his face, a stark contrast to the icy embrace of the river.
We made it.
He coughed, spitting out mouthfuls of water, his chest aching with each inhale. But the discomfort was a small price to pay. He had escaped the river's grasp, and more importantly, he had brought the girl back with him. He turned his attention to his young charge, his heart sinking as he saw her pale face and lifeless limbs. He gently rolled her onto her side, hoping to clear her airway of any remaining water. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as he waited for any sign of life, any indication that his desperate efforts had not been in vain.
Come on, breathe, please.
Panic welled up inside him, threatening to consume him. He couldn't lose her, not after everything. He remembered a documentary he had once seen, a flickering image on a television screen in a shop window. CPR, he had to try.
Okay, focus. You can do this.
He placed his hands on the girl's small chest, mimicking the rhythmic compressions he had seen on the screen. He pushed down, feeling the resistance of her tiny ribs, willing her heart to start beating again. He tilted her head back, pinched her nose, and breathed into her mouth, sharing his own precious air with her. He repeated the cycle again and again, his movements growing more frantic with each passing second.
Come on.
He poured every ounce of his being into the task, his own exhaustion forgotten. He was a man possessed, driven by a force beyond reason or logic. He wouldn't give up. He wouldn't let her die, not on his watch.
You're going to be okay, I promise.
The distant wail of sirens pierced the air, growing louder with each passing second. Lennox, his body trembling with exhaustion, looked up from the young girl. Help was on its way.
Relief washed over me, a bittersweet tide. I had done all I could.
The sirens grew closer, echoing off the concrete canyons of the city. The sound, usually a harbinger of chaos, now brought hope. Soon, professionals would take over. He watched as the flashing lights of an ambulance appeared. A fire truck followed close behind.
The cacophony of the city returned, a jarring reminder. My work here was done.
A woman's scream pierced the air, sharp and filled with a mother's anguish. Lennox watched as a figure detached itself from the group of paramedics rushing down the embankment. The woman, her face pale and etched with worry, sprinted towards them, her eyes fixed on the still form of her daughter.
I saw the flicker of life in the girl's eyes, the slight rise and fall of her chest as she took in a ragged breath. She was alive. I had saved her.
As the ambulance pulled away, its siren fading into the distance, Lennox slowly rose to his feet. His body ached, his clothes heavy and damp, but his spirit felt lighter than it had in years.
He turned and walked away from the riverbank, his footsteps slow and deliberate.
The memory of that day, of the girl's terrified face and the feel of her small hand in his, would stay with him forever. He melted back into the city, becoming one with the shadows once more. He was invisible again, just another face in the throng. But he didn't mind. He was living. Lennox walked until the riverbank was nothing more than a distant memory.
He had stared death in the face and emerged victorious.
He didn't need recognition. He didn't need a reward. He had done what he knew in his heart was right. Days turned into weeks. The city continued its relentless rhythm.
He would sit on the riverbank watching the water flow by.
One afternoon, as he sat lost in thought, a shadow fell across the ground before him.
"You saved my daughter," he said, his voice thick with emotion.
Lennox looked at the man's hand, then back up at his face. He recognized him, the girl's father. Lennox looked at the man, his eyes filled with a mixture of emotions. "Father, please take this. It's the least I can do." The man, misinterpreting Lennox's silence, reached into his pocket and pulled out a wad of bills. "Lennox, keep your money. Your daughter is the only reward I need." The man looked taken aback, the proffered money suddenly feeling crass and inadequate. "Father, but I have to do something. You saved her life. You're a hero." Lennox looked down at his hands, calloused and scarred. He had known hardship, had felt the sting of indifference. He had saved the man's daughter not for a reward, but because it was the right thing to do. "Lennox, you want to repay me? Then take care of your daughter. Cherish her. Protect her. That is all I ask." The man stood there for a moment, the weight of Lennox's words sinking in. He saw a hero who asked for nothing in return. He saw a hero who asked for nothing in return. The man nodded slowly, his throat tight with emotion. "Father, I will. I promise you I will." He turned to leave, then paused, looking back at Lennox with a newfound determination in his eyes. "Father, wait, let me do something. Give me a chance to repay you, not with money, but with an opportunity." A seed had been planted, a seed of possibility, nurtured by the unexpected encounter. The following days were filled with a strange mix of anticipation and doubt. Lennox found himself replaying the encounter with the girl's father over and over in his mind. One cool morning, as Lennox huddled under the meager shelter of an awning, he saw a familiar figure approaching.
"I meant what I said. I want to give you a chance, a fresh start. I'm starting a new construction project, and I need someone with a strong work ethic. There's a place for you there if you want it."
The construction site was a whirlwind of activity. Lennox, clad in work boots and a hard hat, felt a strange sense of belonging. He threw himself into the work, his muscles aching with a satisfying fatigue. The other workers, initially wary of the newcomer, gradually warmed to him. He wasn't just a charity case, he was one of them, earning his keep. The job wasn't just a source of income, it was a source of dignity. Weeks turned into months. The construction project rose from the ground. He had moved into a small but clean apartment, a far cry from the shelters and doorways. He would often find himself looking out at the cityscape at night. The girl's father, true to his word, had become more than just an employer. He saw in Lennox not a charity case, but a man worthy of respect and a second chance. Lennox, in turn, had found something he thought he had lost forever: hope. Lennox's story is not just a tale of bravery and redemption. It's a testament to the power of human connection. He never sought recognition for his heroism, never craved the spotlight. He was content with the quiet satisfaction of knowing he had made a difference. His story reminds us that heroes don't always wear capes or seek the limelight. They walk among us, often unseen, their extraordinary acts of courage and compassion hidden within the ordinary fabric of their lives. Lennox, the unsung hero, stands as a beacon of hope, a testament to the transformative power of second chances.